Hi, everybody. This is Gaynor Meilke with Charisma Inc. and Accounting Ignited, and this is Moving the Needle, Digital Transformation in the Accounting Profession. And super excited with today's guest, which is Gail Perry, CPA Practice Advisor and a practicing accountant. And of course, to be here with John, my co-host. So John, how are you doing?
Doing well, Gaynor. Good to be here again today, and like you say, excited to have our conversation with Gail this morning. Looking forward to
Great.
it.
Great. And Gail, you don't really need an introduction now, but you can tell us a little bit about maybe your background and, everything that you've done for the profession too.
All right, thanks. Well, thanks first of all for having me on this. I'm really excited about it. I am editor-in-chief of CPA Practice Advisor. We're one of the major news sources for the accounting profession. I actually got my start in journalism. My degree is in journalism, and then I went back to school in accounting and became a CPA and worked in public accounting for a long time. And I was always the person that my firm would give me things to write for the account for the clients. So they would say, put this in plain English so our clients will understand it. So that's kind of how I started writing about accounting. And then I uh, I had a newspaper column for the Indianapolis News and Star, and wrote about taxes once a week. And uh, through that, I kind of got hooked up with Accounting Web, which in their US site, I was their first editor-in-chief, and then worked for them for several years, worked for Accounting Today for several years, and then got picked up by CPA Practice Advisor to be their editor. In the interim, I've written 34 books,
Oh,
mostly
All right. A new aspect to dive into.
mostly about financial software, financial planning, taxes, things related to accounting. So, and I do have a tax practice here in Indianapolis.
Wow. So you've done just a little bit.
A few things, yeah.
not
That's
on the block.
amazing. Like I'm actually like, we need to give Gail a crown here.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever
But
happened to Accounting Web, Gail? Where did that?
They're still very vital in England. They decided
Mhm.
to close their US practice for,
Okay.
I'm sure, a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a few years
So
ago.
well,
Yeah.
excellent. So it is a big web of accounting these days to transition and all of the tech that, I mean, just from where you sit, Gail, you probably use it in your firm and then just, you're part of the media that covers everything. I know you and John have been working on the innovation awards at CPA Practice Advisor. So tell us, I mean, where do you see the profession in terms of digital transformation these days?
It's the Wild West, I think. It's just there's so much. It's everywhere. Everyone looks at it differently. Um, Firms are having this thrown at them whether they see it coming or not. All of the technology is using a variety of AI resources. Firms are being bombarded with new ideas for how they can use AI in their practices and how they can streamline the work they do and make it more efficient. And it's overwhelming, and it's every day there's something new. So it's great to follow it in the news and be able to report on it and to see what firms are doing.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for those of us who help firms deal with this technology. But yeah, I think the level of getting overwhelmed with it just keeps growing and growing. What I've noticed now, like doing 3 years into the whole process of helping educate CPAs on AI, starting to get a lot more interest and requests about, okay, we kind of get it. We kind of get what this generative AI thing is, but now how do we do it? What do we actually do with it? How do we bring it into our firms? And that's and the firms have a lot to get in order in their firms, like getting rid of the paper, get it all digitized and things like that. So it's a lot of stress, I think, for a lot of firms, as they go through this.
Yeah. I mean, from your perspective in your own firm, Gail, like how do you manage selecting tech and then you translate that into what what CPA Practice Advisor is trying to do and helping firms actually choose the right tools, know what's out there, and then like make transitions.
Yeah, in my own firm, it's a very small firm. I have about 40 clients at tax practice, so it revs up a few times a year when it's deadline season. But I mean, I use tax software and I use a document transfer software, and that's about it.
Mhm.
I see almost every one of my clients in person. 'Cause they're local, and I really like that aspect of being able to
Mhm.
help them. And I think I get more out of seeing them in person in terms of figuring out what their tax needs are, just
Mhm.
by catching up. So I'm not necessarily cutting edge with my own technology choices, but definitely at the magazine, we try to inform our clients, or our readers rather, of what the options are and kind of how to make decisions about, how to put things together so you've got a full suite of products that serve you well. We do that through articles we write. We run a podcast at the magazine called the Accounting Technology Lab that Randy Johnston and Brian Tankersley host. And just we try and stay on top of it as much as we can. You mentioned the innovation awards. We're doing those right now. We just started the analysis of all the nominations that came in for those awards, and each year we award 10 10 awards to companies that have made some change in the technology for the profession, something that's going to move the needle, if you will, about how accountants are doing their jobs and how they can do them better. So, and I was just looking through the list and thinking, I don't even know how our judges are going to decide this year, because there's so much, and it's overwhelming how cool all the things are
Mhm.
that are being done for accountants for this profession.
Well, what
Gail,
do
I
you?
was going to ask you, because as one of the judges for that, I saw there's like 39 entries, and you picked the top 10. Do you also mention the others that didn't make it to the top 10?
Yeah, I think we generally publish a white paper identifying the top 10 and describing what they are, and listing who all the other entries were.
Yeah, I think it's a great resource for practitioners, because there's so many different solutions out there in the marketplace. And so here you've got like a consolidated listing of new or improved applications out there. And it's a great launch pad then to go learn about them individually based upon what your needs are as a practitioner. It's a great
Right.
resource. The whole CPA Practice Advisor really is a great resource of information for particularly small firms, I think.
Thank you.
The one thing that we were talking about before we started recording, Gail, was AI. Obviously, that's a huge buzzword. And before we get to the reference that you had cited, where do you think accountants are maybe need? I guess the question would be, how do you think accountants should focus their energy and their thought process, because there's so much buzz about AI and there's so many tools with AI. Like, do you see any trends in where people are maybe focusing in the wrong areas as they're trying to parse through what they should do in this new era?
I think it's a little early to say what's right or wrong, because we're just dipping our toes in the waters of
Mhm.
AI, but I hear stories about people jumping on the sort of, the bandwagon of letting AI, oh, they write my emails now, and I can,
Mhm.
write papers for my clients that describe different things, and they use AI for that. And I'm not sure that's really what we need. I mean, it's not something we're not able to do ourselves anyway. I prefer kind of digging into the concept of using AI for analysis. I mean, we talk about becoming more of an advisory profession, and we look at the numbers, but what do those numbers mean? And I think taking that to AI and saying, here's a company in this profession, and this is where their numbers have been going. Um, what is that? Where is it? where do you think that's leading us? What does this company need to be aware of? What are the pitfalls, the numbers, what are the mysteries behind these numbers? And I think that, not that AI could necessarily give us those answers because we know the clients better than AI ever will, I think, but it's a great starting point for analyzing what the numbers mean and what kind of conversations we could have with our clients. I think that's a more interesting use to me than having AI, draft an email message for me.
I also think a really valuable aspect of AI that I find, at least for myself, is just as a learning tool. And like if I want to be an advisor and I have a client who owns a health and fitness center, I may not know enough about that industry as I'd like to, but gosh, you could spend an hour or two with AI just really digging into, tell me about the health and fitness center business model, and then I become more educated, when I'm talking to the client and more confident, right? The more you know, the more you're going to feel confident about it. So I think that's a really valuable use for practitioners.
I agree. I think that's really good. And it's fascinating to get into a real conversation with AI, rather than just a prompt of tell me about the fitness industry, but you can just start chatting in real life, with the
Yeah.
way you would talk to a person, and the answers you get are really in depth.
Yeah. It's funny when you make that point about talking to a person. So I was giving a presentation at a conference about a month ago, and I was just showing some prompts, and I was typing please, I was telling the prompt, please prepare this, and or thank you, whatever. And there was a woman in the front which says, don't do that. She was really kind of disappointed that I was using, talking to it like it was a human.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
thought, well, that's
yeah.
kind of interesting. And I thought, well, why do I do that? And then I thought, I think one of the reasons I like to do it that way is because I don't want to start talking like a computer. So
Right.
even
Mhm.
though it's a computer, I want to talk to it like I'm talking to a human. So I don't sound more like a computer as I do more and more of that prompting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it was actually one of my daughters who taught me to do that, because I was just doing the very bare bones, give me information about this kind of prompts. And she was like, oh no, mom, you need to really talk to it. And she gave me examples, and it made all the difference.
Yeah, interesting.
So we'll go to your resource you were mentioning. Was it the Harvard Business School article on AI and work slop, which
Right.
kind of feeds into, I mean, I agree with John. I don't want to talk like a robot either. And I definitely, I mean, I'll say I'm guilty. I don't always say please and thank you to my AI, but, I think it's an important transition point too, is that, you know, to this article that you were mentioning, Gail, on work slop, like using AI to augment what you're doing as a human as opposed to like replace it. So maybe do you want to talk a little bit about that work slop?
Yeah, one of the things that really struck me in this article was that um, bosses at a company who rely on their staff to produce some kind of information for them, if they're using AI, they're finding that rather than the staff people using their brain, they're relying on AI to create the information they need to provide. And then the boss is in the situation of, "Oh, now I have to go back and research this and find out if, if it's real and if the sources were correct. And then I end up having to rewrite it, and maybe I should have just done it in the first place. Or do I give it back to the staff person and say, you need to research this and rewrite it, and actually, not rely on AI so much, because you're the one who's educated and you have the education we hired you for. And so we want you to be able to actually know what you're presenting me with, and not just relying on AI to do it." And it just, the theory is that people are getting sloppy by relying entirely on AI instead of checking the resources and making sure that it's going in the direction you want it to, and knowing that this is right and this is what you want to say. And then
Yeah.
also you want to say it in your words, because you're presenting this to a client and you don't want it
Yeah.
to sound computerish.
I have a question for you, Gail, and you may want to pass on it, but I'd be really interested if you know the answers to this. What what is your take on copyright and legality of using AI, like for content creation, one, because from what I understand, the copyright is like you don't own the work if you just use AI to generate it. But I don't know about, I've also looked a little bit into the legality of, you do need to disclose that you're using AI, when you're working with clients or something like that. I don't know if you have any insights on that at all from where you sit.
With regard to our publication, we don't rely on AI to, to provide us with content. If for some reason we did, we would definitely disclose it. Like, here's what, an AI take is on this topic, but this is what the news is. This is the reality that's come from reliable sources in the profession or wherever the news is coming from. That's a really interesting point, though, is if you're presenting something to your clients, are you required to tell them it didn't come out of your head? But it kind of did because you asked the questions of AI.
Right.
I don't know what I don't know, I haven't seen anything, any guidance on how to present that to your clients.
What I've read from like the legal aspect is that you should basically have like a disclaimer, and I think like most firms should probably have this anyway, is that they're presenting their best professional advice, and like as a client you can either take it or leave it to a certain extent when it comes to advisory, right? Like you can suggest something to your client, and if they don't want to go down that path, that's one thing. But I don't know, it kind of opens a can of worms in some ways, and I don't have a definitive answer myself. It's just going to be something I think firms and professionals and content creators are going to have to deal with in the future too. And I wasn't suggesting that CPA Practice Advisor is using AI. I just wondered, as you get submissions and things like that, because I know like at Charisma Inc., I've had to tell clients like we can't just use this, like, because we help people sometimes place articles, and it's like, okay, like this is obviously just like AI slop, as you said. So we're gonna
Yeah.
have to go back and just leverage it, right?
So there is an issue. It's like you've got the legal issue and then you got the ethical issue.
Yeah.
So legally, there's not an issue because, well, let me take it back because I do an AI ethics course.
Okay.
And so like the big players, OpenAI and ChatGPT, we know that their models are using copyright protected information. And that's all going to be worked out in the legal system over
Hmm.
time. But they both have a policy that if you use their software in accordance with their guidelines, they will indemnify you and help you in any defense of litigation because they know
Okay, I
otherwise
did
people
not
will
know
be
that.
reluctant. So that's kind of the legal side of it. As a creator of content using AI, there was a recent court case that says you can't, as an individual, get a copyright of information that has been generated by the computer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the bigger picture is the ethical part of it. And so I do poll questions in my ethics course. I ask the people, okay, I give them an example, say, okay, do I need to disclose this? Is it okay to use AI for this? And then if so, do I need to disclose it? And it's a mixed bag of responses. Some people say, yeah, you got to disclose that you've used AI. And others say, no, you're ultimately responsible as the professional for the work product that you present to your client. How you get that work product is really up to you. That's what
Hmm.
some people will say. So it's a very interesting topic that's got to be going to be worked out over time for sure.
That is interesting. I would think, right off the top of my head, I would think you would want to disclose it and partly just because it's a fun conversation to say, I asked AI and this is what they said. And it kind of leads you down the path of what do you think about that? Or asking your client, does that
Yeah.
make sense? But it shouldn't be something we're embarrassed about if we're using it. So there's no reason not to disclose that. It's not like you didn't do any work to get there. You still had to ask the right questions and know what you're
Right.
Right.
looking for.
Hmm.
And we never used to say, well, I used Google search to help me develop this presentation.
Right, right.
Right, or even, you know, the CCH tax library or something, you
Yeah,
know.
right.
I
Yeah,
don't know all the tax cases in my head. I had to look it up.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, and that's, I mean, it's just something that's kind of, I think it's opened up a little bit because also like the clients are also using
Yeah,
AI. And so I think that that's the trust factor, which the accounting profession is built on trust, right? And I think that's where accountants can shine because people want real advice. I've seen like research, I've listened to a lot of podcasts recently, and it's like people are wise to the AI world, right? And so there's actually kind of a trend now more towards in person and verifying people, is this like an actual real like person or not? So it's kind of like scary and sad, but at the same time, I think accountants, you've got real relationships with your clients. You were saying that, Gail, they're coming into your office to talk to you. And people want that because it's like a world of, it's an artificial world out there. So we need to have authentic people. For sure. And advice, authentic advice.
yeah, I agree.
I
So
think
it's,
another challenge that the practitioners face is that the clients are going to be coming to them more educated on whatever the topic is, because they're going
Yes.
to go and use AI and they're going to try to learn what they can, and they're going to ask, I think, tougher questions going forward. So that's going to be an interesting challenge for practitioners to really make sure they step up their game. So all the time we save through automation, we got to redeploy that time to, be more knowledgeable, I think, in whatever our area of expertise is.
I
mhm.
think you're right. I have one client in particular who likes to ask AI all the tax questions that he's going to ask me
Uh-huh.
and then compare answers. And and I found that not having the knowledge of how to ask the question makes a big difference in the kind of results he gets.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but it's interesting, I'm sure there's going to be more of that.
Yeah, for sure. So from a, I guess, digital transformation perspective, Gail, do you see firms are kind of like hungry for all the information, like from your readership and what you are giving them, where are the people's areas of interest? Like, where do you think practitioners are spending their time trying to figure out the whole like new world of tech?
Well, I think that you've got two schools of professionals, and one is the people who are really happy with what they're doing and the way they do it, and their days are full and they have plenty of clients and they're not really looking for change. And they know that their software is going to be continuously updated and they're relying on the software companies to do that well. But they're not necessarily looking for, they're not the accounting firms who are adding advisory services or, I mean, they're compliance firms. And I think they're going to stay that way. There's no reason to try and push them where they don't necessarily want to go. And then on the other hand, you have the firms that want to grow and attract more clients and offer more to their clients and be able to really make a bigger difference in their clients' lives than they've done before. And those firms, I think, are just eating it up. The more they can learn, the more they can restructure in their practice, the better. So I think, so we try to write to all that, to all those groups. And it's a challenge, but it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean everybody's got their own comfort level with adoption of tech, and I actually think like that first group is probably, going to be able to leverage AI and all the tech better than people who are kind of chasing the shiny objects at this point because we work with a lot of tech vendors and being able to work with the tech that's been tested. I mean, the tech vendors today who are serving the accounting profession, they have a lot riding on the trust that accountants have as well. So,
Yeah.
they're making sure that as they're innovating and adding AI, it's based on what accountants need. So, there's so much change. It's kind of like, drink with a straw instead of like taking a bowl and trying to like drink it all at once, right? Be selective. And I think that's always
Yeah.
good advice. What do you think, John, since you're the one who's really seeing, firms contemplate and work through all of these decisions?
Yeah, well, I like the way Gail characterized the two different categories of practitioners, and I think that that group that is just pretty much happy doing what they're doing, the best they're going to do is make incremental change.
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to really get them to pursue like more revolutionary change, it's all it does is frustrate them. And then the other hand, you've got the firms that want to start up and grow and adopt all the technology. Those are the ones that really appreciate having outside advisors to help them do that and help them select tools. But so it does depend which camp you're in terms of what's the best way to approach the whole tech stack issue. Um, those firms that are doing good and happy with what they're doing, whether we may think they're, stuck in the mud or not, doesn't really matter. They're making good money, they're keeping busy. But anything we can do to help them incrementally improve is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I think slow and steady often wins the race, even in today's world where everything's moving at such a rapid pace. And that just rhymed, and I'm sorry. Uh, well, great. Gail, do you have anything else for us? I mean, you've got lots and lots, but I think Ensuring Success is coming up, right?
It is, yes. So Ensuring Success is our annual conference that we produce in December each year. It's 2 days of discussions with a variety of leaders and people in the profession who are kind of making a difference. And we offer CPE credit, so it's 14 hours of CPE. The interesting things about this conference that make it kind of unique are that we bring all the speakers together, all live in a studio in Dallas, a television studio, and every session is a panel discussion with 2 moderators and typically 3 speakers. And all of the attendees are remote, so nobody has to travel to the conference. It's free for all the attendees. We dig into a lot of really pressing issues and things that are changing the profession. It's not a conference where a speaker gets up in the front of the room with a PowerPoint and reads the slides. It's all a discussion. It's interactive. We take questions from the people who are watching, and it's a pretty fun event. So it's December 10th and 11th.
One of my favorite parts is having been a speaker there on occasion is you get a makeup artist. So
Yeah,
you feel like a
exactly.
movie star.
Yeah. So not only is the content amazing, we all look a
We all
little
look great.
better
Yeah.
thanks to CPA Practice Advisor. So that's great. I mean, honestly, with all that you've done for the profession, like already, Gail, like I can't even imagine like what the future will be with you helping us all along our digital transformation. So thank you for
I'll just say we could ask
doing
AI and get some advice.
You go.
and this is a real deal. This is not AI, Gail. This is
Real good.
The real Gail.
authentic. Yeah, real Gail. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me on this. It's nice to chat with both of you.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate it very much.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Till next time.